walking for it. Christmas. Dun, 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 dun.
It's taking a strange amount of time for him to join. Like, oh, here we go.
Oh, there we go. Oh, am I
What?
still H? What the heck? Whatever. I'm just H. Isn't that like a James Bond character?
Hmm.
You're a Men
Oh
in
no,
Black.
M. It's M.
No.
Damn, I should be M.
It doesn't look like he's connected to audio yet.
I don't even have anything popping up yet.
I
Not even
have
video.
I have the square, so it looks like we're gonna be in 4. You know what I mean? Because I
Mhm.
see it as a grid.
I have a blank square on mine.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, here
never
he
mind.
comes. Yeah, so I'm saying his was taking a little longer than normal. Same thing when it was trending.
Okay, there you go.
Hey, Michael.
Hello.
You're
Love the
on the
background.
Wonderful. Is it nice?
I know. How you doing?
My bald brother. Like, it's good to see somebody else without any hair. I feel better. Lexi and Nick make me feel so self-conscious.
Let me tell you something. When I started shaving my head, I felt liberated. So it's perfectly fine.
Well, once you start going bald, the longer your hair is, the worse it looks. So like, you just gotta just go for it. Like, go all in.
Because at a certain point, it looks like you're trying to hold on to your youth.
Exactly. Precisely.
Hold on to that little bit, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
You are handsome though. Before you came on, I was telling them, I was like, oh my gosh, he is so handsome. I was looking at these images of you from your new film, and I was like, oh, you so well. You're so handsome.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. I appreciate it. I really
Being
appreciate
honest.
So to introduce ourselves, since we have not yet, I am Joe.
it. No, forget about you. I still want to talk to the lady. Yeah,
Well,
you're
that's
good, but she's okay. Yeah.
Go ahead, Lexi. Introduce yourself. You're the one.
Lexi, hello. My name says H. I'm just a James Bond character in the making.
Okay. Nice
And
to meet you,
this
Lexi.
is Nick. Right
Hello.
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
here. And our main man, Joe, who is bald. Like,
There he is.
bald. Gorgeous.
We're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for taking
My
the time to talk with us.
pleasure.
Can you start by telling us about this film and how it relates to the first agent?
If you didn't hear him, just let me know and I'll tell you. You did cut out.
I heard him. Yeah,
Okay.
I did hear him.
Okay.
The first agent, I basically purposely didn't watch the first agent. So the revelation was I wanted to take it on its own, and I enjoyed a lot of aspects about it. First, I'm an actor, so I looked at my role, and it was very, very interesting. He was an integral part, which I liked, and but then the movie itself or the script itself was one of those that you never know how the movie's going to turn out. You never know what people are going to think about it, but at least it was something that I was interested in. That was the main thing, and it also dealt with what I felt was the idea about greed and about right and wrong and loyalty and where does strength come from, and I liked that a lot. At least that, let me put it this way, I added that into my
Portrayal of the character.
portrayal of the character. Yeah.
It's Alistair. Is it Alistair that you play?
Alistair.
It's, I believe you narrate the trailer, or at least narrate the beginning of the trailer.
Yes.
And you say something like, it's been, I think if I heard correctly, like 500 years since something happened and now it's coming back. Can you give, just like for people who are unfamiliar with the series, can you give a little explanation of basically what happened in the past?
What happened in the past is basically what I've been doing the last like in 15 years, which is fighting off an alien invasion, you know, and which is always what they're trying to do. They're trying to take over, and they're trying to take over by going with a guy that is a billionaire who has all of the resources and connections that can get them in their little tentacles to go out there and to try to turn the planet over to them. And my character falls for it. He's greedy. He's disloyal. They ask him to kill his own son, which is ridiculous. But and now that he's done that, or now that he's part of this, he feels very sort of like contrite about it. He really wants to make up for his actions before. And so he has chosen Derek's character to kind of be the point man to get, you know, to get rid of these aliens, these godforsaken aliens, as usual.
It's interesting. Yeah, I noticed when you were working on the film, and I noticed in the trailer that you have some time with like combat and some stunts in the film. And I was wondering if you could kind of expand on what it was like to film the more physical scenes in the movie.
Actually, I didn't. The only things that I did were the kind of Tai Chi moves and teaching Derek about that. He was very much part of the. I mean, he's done martial arts, so basically he was in charge of most of that. The only thing that I did, the only physical thing I did, was getting shot full of holes, which I thought was very cool.
Well, then I guess to kind of piggyback off of that, since you were working with him, who was a martial artist, was there anything that you learned while you were filming the stunts that you maybe didn't know beforehand?
Interesting. Derek was he was very smart about something, because when we started doing that particular scene and we were rehearsing, I was, you know, because I had done a lot of that stuff in the Next Generation, and so I was kind of going, okay, this is how you do it, and he's going, oh, that's very interesting, and then I kind of looked at him and I went, do you know martial arts? Because I kind of felt that, and he goes, well, actually, yeah, my whole life. And I go, well, what am I doing teaching you? I mean, but he said he wanted it to look like I was teaching him. He didn't want it to look like that he knew already, because that would take away from the whole scene, which is I'm teaching him how to do this. And I thought that was very smart. He didn't try to overshadow that with his own knowledge, which is great.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's like a meeting of the minds and just kind of two schools of thought to come together to create something really interesting. I like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna pass it over to Lex, 'cause I'm sure she's got a couple questions for you as well.
Sure.
Thank you, Nick.
Hello,
Yeah,
Lexi.
over here. No, I'm kidding. But
Hello,
yeah,
Lexi. How are you?
you're gonna make me blush, and I turn red.
She's the one that he really wants to talk to. So like now that he's gotten through us, let's like just let the potatoes are done. Let him have the steak.
Funny.
I
Okay.
can't over here. But Nick made a great segue to your Star Trek Next Generation, which you did a lot of action in there in relation to your character. By the way, you seem very much like your character, very admirable, which is awesome. I love that, and you picked up a lot of traits from that. But how much action did you do yourself on Next Generation?
It was very kind of specific, because when we did close-ups, a lot of the close-ups, you had to be there. It had to be you.
Right.
And I had a great relationship with the stunt people. And so I would go to Dan Curry, who was a special effects supervisor, who was a martial arts expert. I mean, he was a master. And I would go to him with the script and I'd say, okay, I got to do this. And he and I would go through a bunch of stuff, and he'd say, okay, this is what you do, this is what you do. Then I'd go to the stunt people and on the day, and we'd work out. They'd show me what they had, I'd show them what I had, and then we'd come together for this to make the character martial arts, but not so much that you can identify it as an actual martial arts. Like you can't identify it as kung fu or karate or whatever the case.
Right.
And, but there were times when I had to do it. I had to actually do the stunts because, you know, there's a lot of spoofs where you see the actor and then you see the stunt guy that's portraying the actor, and they're nothing alike. Like, you know, he's 300 pounds and I'm, 180, so you had to go in there and do that. And I got hurt one time, two times, where the stunt people said, "Oh, Michael, come at me and he's going to throw a punch." And I go, "Well, that doesn't make much sense. I mean, I'm coming at him and he's throwing a punch." They, "Oh, no, we know what we're doing. We're professionals." And the guy hit me and almost broke my nose. I mean, it was, yeah. And I go, so whenever a stunt guy says, "Oh, we know what we're doing. We're professionals," run.
Direction, not towards them. Oh my. Well, as an actor, do you typically like to stick to your script, or do you love having room to improv? And have you done it lately or in your new film at all?
No, we don't. I prefer to stick to the script. A lot of people, a lot of actors I've been around and seen, they'll immediately start trying to throw out stuff, and that's kind of, to me, that's kind of a little lazy. I think that you don't know. I mean, writers are writers and actors, so we let them write. And if there's something that I am reading or acting and I can't make it work, I'll go to the director or the writer and say, I just don't know how to say this. Like, what do you want me to say, or how do you want me to say it? And interesting, a very good thing, good question, is that really great directors and really great writers, they'll listen to you and they'll go, "Oh," and a great writer will go, "Oh, you're right. Something. Okay, what about this?" And you go, "Oh, much better," and you go on. Whereas not so great directors and not so great writers will tell you to do it exactly like they wrote it. And you kind of go, "But it doesn't work." Yes, it does. But it's not funny. Yes, it is. So
You and what company, right?
yeah, it is.
So I kind of want to explore that, the kind of like a realism between when you get into the scenes. I understand you're a pilot in real life. Did that happen before or after you were involved with the Star Trek series?
It happened. I loved aviation all my life when I was a little kid. So, and there was a couple of times where I was going to get my license. It didn't work out, but Star Trek happened, and a year after I got the show, and we'd been working, 26 episodes, I had a little extra money, and there was a writer's strike. So we didn't know how long it was going to go, but we had 5 months off, and so I got my license between that. And a great story is that I thought that they might not let me, or may not like the idea that I was getting an airplane license, and so I kept it secret. And one day I went in there to start my training for that day, and NBC News was out there to talk about.
Oh boy.
And at 4, 6, and 8 that night, they said Michael Dorn would never fly without, and so they knew, but they didn't care. They didn't care.
Do you feel like you notice any specific distinctions between flying, actually flying, and flying on screen?
No, there's absolutely no connection whatsoever. I mean, I did a movie, I think it was after Star Trek. I forgot when it was. And it was about a hijacking of the Concorde, the supersonic. And I go into the cockpit that they've made up, and it's huge. And the guy goes, "Hey, Michael, this is really realistic, like the Concorde." And I go, "No, no, it isn't. The Concorde is this little bitty cockpit and it's very claustrophobic." And so there really isn't any, you know, but even Cruise's Top Gun, there's some stuff that's really good. And then there's some stuff that is just, okay, no.
What
Yeah.
what kind of planes do you fly, if you don't mind me asking?
Do you have time?
My dad and I love planes, so
Oh,
I'm like, oh yeah, what do you fly? Like I know what a lot of them look like. I have
okay.
statues in the room.
I started flying in 172s. I got my, Cessna 172s, and then I progressed into single engine retractable gear airplanes like a Trinidad, and then I went to a 310, Cessna 310, then a 340, and then that started my little military career. I started flying jets, and yeah,
That's awesome.
I had an airplane called the first jet was an airplane called the Casa jet, and then I had a T-33, and then I flew had an F-86 or a Sabre jet for
That
about
is so cool.
years, and I've flown with the Thunderbirds, the Blue Angels, the Okies. We did F-16s dogfighting, 2 F-16s against 2 F-16s. I've flown left seat, the cat in a B-1 bomber,
Cool.
and I've gone on a carrier in an F-18. So
Okay, so I do have another question about planes, real quick. When you watch films, do you ever get upset when the time era doesn't match the type of planes they're supposed to be flying?
yes.
Oh my gosh, my dad and I get so mad. You
We
have
do.
one job.
And you know what I do? I when I see that, I go, click. But yeah, and also because there's so much great CGI, they do a lot of stuff that you go, no, that didn't work. Like in the new Midway.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're flying these dive bombers, the guys that like fighter jets. They're just boom, 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 and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, they nobody flies it like that. You can't, you know. So yes, last Lexi, I'm with you. I'm like,
I can't remember what the film was, but it was with Ben Affleck, and that
Pearl
movie,
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, and I struggled a lot during Pearl Harbor. But Joe wanted me to return our conversation to Picard. With
Picard. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So being that you were this wonderful character, my dad's favorite character, I grew up with Star Trek. Is there anything that you could say for people going into wearing prosthetics? Because it looks like you wore them quite often.
Yeah.
I wish the listeners could see your face. That was incredible.
It was the one really dark spot about doing the show. It was the people. I love the people, and I love the character, and the work was great. It's always nice to have a job, but that 3 hours every morning was out of control. And the first 2 years, it got really bad. I had a very bad skin condition that came up, and I thought I had to quit. I really did. I didn't want to, and I told the producers, it's not about anything, but I got to have a career after this show's over.
Right.
And luckily, they took the time and the effort to change it so that it didn't cause too much trouble. But I would say, interesting, luckily enough, they don't do 26 episodes of anything these days, except for maybe sitcoms and things like that. So I would tell people, be careful what you wish for. because you could, makeup is really, really difficult. And we've had people come on Next Generation, like these God, they were radio DJs. And a lot of people, oh God, I really want to do that. I'll come on as an alien. And they really want to do it really. And the day after they're done, they'll say, I'll never do this again. I will never. And I go, yeah, that's, I mean, I don't know if I'd ever do it again. I have no idea.
Hmm.
Because
Well,
It's
I
funny.
would say it didn't do anything to your face. You're still handsome. All right, Joe.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I remember, I think it was Alan Oppenheimer was telling me he had done a few roles in Star Trek.
I love Alan Oppenheimer.
Yeah, he was on the show and he was talking about it, and he was talking about how like he would go out for a smoke break and he was in full like the prosthetics. So is that like, did you take your breaks and like spend your lunch breaks in your prosthetics as well?
Luckily, the first year, like the first 6 months, we'd always go to lunch in the commissary, which was like a kind of a Hollywood thing to do. And it was terrible because I couldn't eat because if I tried to chew, the beard would come off, and people are pointing and hey, look, honey, there's the monster, and it just got to be, so I would, and they were very good about that. They bring you great lunches, and I'd stay in my trailer. I never went out. It was a pain. It was a pain.
Well, I'm going to skip across the landmines here and ask you another question about Picard. It is heavily rumored that you will make a return or could potentially make a return. Is there anything you can say about that, or is that something that non-disclosure agreements are going to crush you with?
No, not at all. In fact, I can say with full freedom that they have not contacted me at all.
Okay.
Would you like them to?
It would just depend on the part. It would just depend. Once again, 3 hours of makeup.
Yeah.
For 26 episodes, like you said.
I don't know if I want to do that. But it just would depend on a lot of things. Depend on the part. It depends on what they wanted to do with the character. Just all of these things. I mean, that's the good thing about where I am in my career right now, is that I pick and choose things that I want to do because they're interesting and not because I have to. I mean, the only real reason for doing that is so I can, giggle and laugh with Patrick and everybody for a few days, which is always a lot of fun.
Nice.
But otherwise, no. They haven't, the show's been on for a couple of years, so they have not made a peep out of them. So.
Well, we will see. And you had mentioned doing different projects and picking and choosing whatever you want. I know you've done a lot of voice acting. Nick was actually mentioning that you are going to be involved in Invincible. I know he actually had a question about that really quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually had a couple. First one was Invincible. The other one's kind of more fun because I was just curious when we were talking about planes. But for Invincible, noticed you were voicing Battle Beast, and I've read the whole series. I love the series. I think it's great. And I was wondering, like, with your past experiences playing, different aliens and always an imposing figure, if you will, as those characters, did you bring any of that to your character in Invincible?
Well, the thing that you do with voiceovers is you go in as a clean slate,
Mm-hmm.
because I got to say a lot of times, I say 90% of the time, the producers change their mind in the session. And so if you've got something planned and you're doing a certain thing, it usually doesn't work out. I mean, they like it and stuff, but they go, nah, do it like this and do it like that. And so I basically go in as Michael Dorn, and they take it from there. But Invincible, I did that a long time ago. It just is.
Huh. Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Next year, 2021, right? Yeah. Wow. That's just how voice actors or and animation work together, I guess. Sometimes you do something, and then years later, you're like, "Oh, hello, it's nice to see you."
You know what? You know what, Lexi? I did an interview, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, for this one show. And the guy says, "Oh, Michael, you're going to be in this." And I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he goes, "No, you did this. And it was something I had done 2 years before." So it's a long, I'm doing a show right now. Now that I can't tell you what it is, but um, I said, "When is this going to be out?" And they said, "Oh, probably about 2022. And I go, "Really?"
Dang.
Yeah. So I did that a while ago.
I think
Well,
I think out of all the
It's what? What'd you say?
Sorry, Nick, go.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I think out of all the voice actors that we've spoken to, you're the first one that's like kind of given us that perspective of the craft, like everything from coming in with a clean slate to sometimes you record this stuff way before
Oh,
it even comes out.
yeah. I mean, the guys, I do a bit of voice work, but there's a group of guys that do a lot. And they basically, the producers hire them for that reason, that they can come in and do any voice that you want. And I'll go in and I'll rehearse and I'll say, "Do you want me to change anything?" And they'll go, "Well, we want to do this or we want to do that." And then you have to change that. And could you do that slower? Could you do a little more of this? And so I just go in and you know sit there with a stupid look on my face and go, "Well, I'm ready."
It's funny.
Teamwork
At
makes
least
the dream
just to
work.
keep it with a clean slate and open mind.
Nick, you had one more question about planes. I'm just as excited about it. So.
Yeah, no. So, kind of piggybacking on what we discussed before, I also grew up around planes and aviation engineering with my dad because he loves war history. So I was all about that. And when I was a kid, I saw the Blue Angels. I was in high school, Air Force ROTC. Like, I love that stuff. And I also noticed that it seems like there's always a connection between science fiction and planes and aviation. I don't know why, but I just always noticed that. And I was wondering for you, you said that you had planes for most of like you were around them for most of your life. Do you think that there might be some type of a connection to the idea of like, aviation and flying and going higher versus science fiction and that
Yeah.
same similar concept?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, because planes have always been on the cutting edge of technology.
Mhm.
And naturally it's always higher, faster, higher, faster. And so I think that science fiction is always to show that somebody is I don't, for some reason, that's the way to do it, is to show if a group of people are technically advanced, thank you, is how fast and high they go.
Mhm.
Of course, the transporter in Star Trek is about as fast as you can go. But I think that's always been sort of like on the cutting edge, you know. And I'm like I love the idea of aviation because am I something going on?
Is there like a weird buzz?
Yeah. What is that?
I
Me.
wasn't sure if it was me.
Yeah, I thought I was going crazy.
Oh,
It
there it is.
sounds, yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, so I believe there's a connection. There's always, and I got to tell you, between when I started flying and the technology now is just crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy because when I started, you had a case full of books of maps and this and that and all of these things that you had to take out and flip through and now you got your iPad and that's all you have.
Hmm.
And so the technology is just insane. Just insane.
Definitely.
It's
Yeah,
funny.
definitely.
I had a guy that was an F-14 Tomcat fighter pilot, and here's a $50 million airplane, and they have a $600 Garmin GPS taped to the panel.
That's always how it goes too when it comes to aviation too. It's like all this tech and then just that one thing that ends up being the most important thing is the least expensive.
Least expensive thing,
That's
Yeah.
funny. No, I love that though, and I'm glad that I don't feel as crazy thinking that there's a connection between the two anymore, knowing that,
Not,
we're not the only ones that think that.
not.
I also wanted to ask, it's kind of on, kind of off topic, but you've done so much voice work with like a lot of the DC characters. You know, you were Steel, you were Calabac, you were Bane, and are there any? I don't know how versed you are with the DC lore at this point, but if there are any other characters that you would like to lend your voice to, do you think that maybe through your past experiences, there's any you found interesting that you didn't get a shot to check out?
This is sacrilegious, I know, but the DC universe, I mean, there was a trailer for a movie with all the characters,
Mhm.
and I think I saw 30 people running towards me, all superheroes. And I'm lost. You know, I'm lost. I have no idea about that universe anymore. You know?
It's very vast. Even I love comics, and I look
Oh,
at DC and there's characters I see and I'm like, when did they show up? Like, who are they?
you know, they had this, I don't know if you ever saw that, but it was this trailer and everybody was running towards the camera, you know, and that look on their face and everything. And I'm going, I don't know half these people. Who's that? You know? So you kind of lose it, you know, you kind of lose it after a while. But
Yeah, that makes sense.
Gotcha. I know that we've already gone over our time, so I really appreciate you sticking on and just shooting the crap with us. Since we didn't talk a whole lot about Agent Revelation, I mean, there's only so much you can because the movie's not out yet. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about that film before we wrap up?
I think that everybody's going to get something from the film. You know, everybody's going to come away with their take on what it means and what it's trying to say. But I think it's just it's basically a metaphor for the times we live. You know, the times we live in. Is that an airplane over there?
It's,
Yeah, that's me.
I was gonna say that's got to be Florida because it's not here.
So yeah, it
But
really is a metaphor for who we are, and hopefully it's a metaphor, or hopefully it's a solution, so that people will come away with a different take and probably do something hopefully different in their lives, which I hope. But the main thing is I just want people to have a good time and enjoy themselves.
yeah, have some fun. Hopefully, open up some perspective while you're at it. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention? Anything people don't ask you, or anything you want to plug before we wrap?
Um, I'm still hoping for the Star Trek, the Worf Chronicles. I wrote a script a few years ago, still sitting right over there, about uh, the Worf Chronicles, a show, a spinoff that is about Worf. And hopefully people will talk to other people and, you know, get to the CBS All Access, and maybe they'll do something about it someday.
That would be awesome, and I had no
Heck
idea
yeah.
that was even a thing.
More
So,
of
so actually, could you tell me when was this written? When did you first
Oh,
write this?
I wrote this probably 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago. And we got a lot of interest at one point, and then it waned. And then we got another lot of interest, and then it waned again. So, and I haven't done much rewriting. It's just sort of like it's been sitting there, and I think it's a great idea. You know, it's sort of looking at, instead of Starfleet looking at the Klingon Empire, we are in the Klingon Empire looking at Starfleet. And,
That's awesome.
you know, as you know,
Heck yeah.
Klingons are very Shakespearean. You know, they're very sort of big, and there's coups and assassinations and political intrigue and all that stuff, and a lot of slicing and killing.
Yeah, that'd be an awesome angle to look at. So,
Exactly.
we'll definitely try to help promote that as well. Any other social media or anything that you want to plug before I kick you out of here?
I'm just, you know, barely on Facebook and barely on Twitter. So
Okay, no, well, I want to thank you again. I
my pleasure.
really appreciate it. I know it means a lot to Lexi and Nick too. Thank you so much for speaking with us about the planes, about just everything we wanted to
Everything.
ask, because we kept
I
you
appreciate it.
forever.
I appreciate it.
So we wish you luck
Thank you very much.
and be safe.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Lexi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lexi. That was very sweet about You made my day. Thank you.
My day.
Okay. Well,
Bye-bye.
thanks again.
You bet.
Take care.
Alright, gotta figure out how to leave. Alright, see, I always
There
do
he
it
is.
every time.
Okay.
Can you still hear my ringing?
I didn't hear anything.
Not anymore.
Mm-mm.
Okay, well that was weird.